Well, that wasn't exactly the way I wanted to end that segment, but it works out. Again, it's tough to see my season end the way it did. It's tough to see, the decisions I make cost me after, so many great ones this year. But it's time to move on. It's time to crown a new champion this year. It's time to give somebody their second title this year. And Benny, you're going to be facing off with Mike Haber this year in the finals. He gets a 12-8 win over Jason this week. Close categories this week. Mike wins by 1 RBI, 2/3 of an innings pitched, and 2 relief appearances. Jason wins by a triple and 2 walks, and they also tied in errors. For Mike on his bench this week, he went 4 for 25. It's a 160 batting average with 3 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 2 RBIs, 6 walks, and 11 strikeouts. The 6 walks is the only thing that plays. And the real play there that should have happened is on Saturday. He ends up getting, I think it was something to the case of he had 3 walks on the bench, and it's Chris Davis that he needed to have in the lineup instead of Justin Turner. Justin Turner gives him an 0 for. Chris Davis also gives him an 0 for, I think, 3. But the 2 walks is key there because that would have won him that category. At the end of the day, he wins the matchup, so it doesn't hurt him too badly.
No. And what day was that?
That was Saturday.
Okay. And then Sunday, did he have a full lineup?
He did not. Mookie Betts sat, James McCann sat, and Didi Gregorius sat. So he was rolling. Right. He was rolling 7 guys out there. Chris Davis was an 8th guy, but he couldn't get him into the lineup because of the structure of it, and it wouldn't have helped him. Davis, hit a double, which he lost by 5, but he struck out 3 times as well. So that's not what you want to see from a guy on Sunday. For his moves this week, I liked the Anibal Sanchez pickup on Wednesday. Sanchez pitched well for him. It was a pickup for later on in the week, though. The start he picked him up for was again in Miami, 5 innings, a win, a homer, a walk, a strikeout. It was just a decent start. Neither of these guys pitched well, so it's a case of you just have to find the right guys to get an ERA around 4.50 for Mike this week to get the win, and comfortably at that. As far as offensive moves are concerned, there weren't a whole lot of them. It was much more a case of trying to catch the pitching, especially late in the week. His last, I think, 5 or 6 moves were all for pitchers. Chase Anderson, Brent Suter, Brandon Woodruff, Trevor Richards, Garrett Richards, who was a disaster for him, and Matt Andrews. As far as offensively, he hit well enough. He hit 248 with a 311 on base. That'll compete. I look at things very interestingly when I saw this matchup play out the way it did. Neither of these guys were hitting well at all. They were both hitting under 200 by midweek. And it was a situation, and I said this to Mike after the week was over. He texted me, and I said, congratulations on your win. Good luck in the finals. I just find it interesting that if that tiebreaker that we talked about last week between Jason and James is the other way, right? And James McCloskey gets in, he faces you, and I get Mike Haber, and this would have been a completely different situation. It's completely realistic to believe that I would be in the finals if I faced Mike Haber this week. Obviously, that's not the way it goes. And, you play who's on your schedule, you play the way it shakes out. Mike did exactly what he had to do to get there. The relief appearances, the ERA was low. Jason pitched very, very badly. And Mike got everything he needed to get this win. There's nothing that I can point to offensively that says, oh, this would have changed things. It is what it is. That is not the same case for Jason, though. Jason went 5 for 33 on his bench. It's a 152 batting average with 5 runs, a triple, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 9 strikeouts. The 2 homers would have tied the category, and the 3 RBIs would have won him the category. Those both came, the 2 homers and the 3 RBIs all came from 2 Colorado Rockies late in the week. On Friday, Garrett Hampson's on his bench, goes 2 for 4 with a homer, an RBI, 2 runs, and a steal. And I believe Harold Castro's in his lineup, goes 1 for 4 at second base. If he plays Hampson there, he's well within striking distance on Sunday or going into the weekend to get homers and RBIs. Where on Saturday, Ryan McMahon, a guy he traded for, was on the bench. Goes 1 for 3 with a homer, an RBI, and a run on the bench. Jorge Polanco is 0 for 4 at shortstop, and Garrett Hampson he plugged into the lineup at second base. So if he moves Polanco out, throws Hampson at second, and McMahon or throws Hampson at short, and McMahon at second, there's his homers. It's rough to try to do, but these are the kind of plays that you have to make this deep in the playoffs in order to get there.
McMahon had a really tough week for him when he played on the other. I think it was something like 1 for 13.
Yeah.
So it's a tough time with a guy that you traded for at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, he's married to Jorge Polanco as well, as he traded for him too. So and Polanco gave him a good week, led the team in runs scored in a category that he won. So you can't fault Jorge Polanco for this loss, but it's a play where you probably would have wanted to maybe move him off on Saturday to try to get a guy like McMahon in.
Right. I think we can't really talk about necessarily that. I get that, there were guys that you could flip in here and maybe take that shot, but we also talk about how it's hard to be perfect.
Sure.
The one thing that I really kind of look at with this whole thing, and this is aside from the fact that Jason lost by 2/3 of an inning pitched. So that's one that he lost, that if he wins, he flips it, right? Mm-hmm. Losing by 2 relief appearances. So if he wins that, he flips it. That makes it a tie. We know Jason has the tiebreaker over Mike, so that's all he needs again. So you can do it 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
But the thing to look at mostly is that we're talking about a team that all year, every week, you and I would talk about how great his pitching was. Yeah. And finally, they failed him.
Absolutely.
Or maybe he just, could have decided this isn't the right time to start this guy on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday even. Mm-hmm. So we'll look across the board and see how that happened and how it unfolded. But I think the moral of the story is that we're talking about a guy that, again, on the tops of our league in pitching, built a pitching staff, built a bullpen, put himself in this position because of it. Mm-hmm. And when he needed him most, they didn't do what he needed them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Whether you look at a guy like Max Scherzer, who pitched to a 6.75 ERA, or a guy like Yu Darvish, who pitched to a 4.11 over 15 innings, or any of the streamed guys he picked up, Johnny Cueto, Steven Matz, Clay Buchholz, Felix Hernandez, Yusei Kikuchi, they were all bad. Every single one of them was bad. He pitched to a 7.71 ERA, did not even get one single win over 70 innings. Went 0-7 on the week. Did get 7 saves. I mean, that's nice. It's nice to hang your hat on. Did win strikeouts, got 83 strikeouts over 70 innings. That's another thing to hang your hat on. But those were the only 2 categories he won, and the rest of them, relief appearances was close. Walks he lost by 3. Homers he lost by 3. The rest, innings he lost, like you said, by 2/3 of an inning. But the vast majority of them weren't exactly close. And this was just a massive letdown for him on the pitching side of things.
It's possible that he could have been better off maybe just saying, I'll take the defeat in innings pitched just to maybe not give up a couple more bombs, a couple more walks, maybe 1 or 2 less losses. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it forces Mike to pitch another guy. Maybe Mike pitches that other guy. He ends up, having a bad start from somebody.
Yeah.
So,
and Mike did.
When things happen during the week, Joe, it changes a guy's strategy of now I might as well just start every guy and let's do the race of innings pitched. Let's do the race of strikeouts. Let's go and try and have that race. I'm not saying that's totally what happened here, but it's kind of what happened here.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Sunday, each of them had really bad starts. You know, Ryan Yarbrough against Boston for Jason, and Garrett Richards against Arizona for Mike. They each had bad starts. Garrett Richards was worse, but it wasn't so bad that it would have changed anything if he doesn't play Yarbrough. It's a case of I imagine they were both racing for the innings pitched, and Mike gets just enough, and it's the pickup of Matt Andriese that really either Andriese or Richards, whichever you want to look at. Andriese gets into the game, throws an inning in 2/3. Richards starts the game and goes an inning in 2/3.
What a pickup!
Yeah. So, without one of those two guys, he doesn't win innings. And Jason does, and it becomes an 11-9.
Need one more flip.
He still needs one more flip.
It's also,
which goes back to the
Matt Andriese. Now, you think he had knowledge that he was coming in, in the backup of that game? Mm-hmm. But if that was on a whim, that's incredible, because then you think about it. Okay, he loses innings pitch, and he's one less relief appearance, and that means Jason only needs to play one more freaking relief appearance somewhere in the week. So
yeah. He needed to
crazy.
He needed to find the RBI. He needed to find a relief appearance.
Oh my God!
It's that close. It's that close. Even if he pitched that terribly, he still could have been there. He picked up Luke Weaver for Jason did for a start, and he only gave him 2 innings. Coming off the injury, I think that's a case of I'd like to get this guy into my lineup. He's somebody that Jason obviously believes in, and he's pitched really well this year when he was healthy. But I don't think he was expecting to use a move on a guy, especially late in the week, because he picked him up on Saturday for that start, to only see 2 innings.
Right. No, I mean, that's a use of a move, and that was and we didn't talk about. I forgot to bring it up when we were talking about our matchup. But Kyle Gibson with Foltynewicz, that was supposed to get me to the minimum.
Right.
And this guy he can't even get out of the second inning because all he does is start walking guys.
Right.
And then now it's this. This is even worse because this is an addition that you made. You used an ad for this,
right.
And this is what he gave you. That blows up in your face, and now you're one behind.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he did pick up Chad Green early in the week. That gave him, he went 2 innings and 2 relief appearances and struck out the side on both of them. That's a really good start to a game for an opener. You just kind of, if you're Jason, you just kind of hope that somewhere along the line he would have been able to get into another game somewhere.
Yeah.
Clay Buchholz was bad. Yusei Kikuchi was awful. Felix Hernandez was terrible. These are all guys that you're blowing moves on these matchups, and Felix's start was that was at Baltimore. That's a good matchup to stream. Yusei Kikuchi's start was in Pittsburgh, another good spot to stream. Clay Buchholz was in Baltimore, another decent spot to stream. Steven Matz's start was that in Miami? What did he get? The 4 innings? Oh no, that was the start on Monday that was in Colorado. And maybe that's the one that you point to and go, that's probably not the best idea, but it is Monday, and you can arguably get away with it. He picked up Justice Sheffield in Baltimore. He streamed a lot of guys who were facing off against Baltimore, and every single one of them got rocked. And, to the point you made that Trey Mancini was the AL Player of the Week. So, yeah, he was facing off against guys that are on Jason's team getting blown up. It would have been interesting if you two were facing each other in the second round. But, again, it is what it is. This matchup was a lot of fun to watch, and I don't know how... I didn't get to dive as deep into it. I didn't pay attention to it as much because, obviously I'm focusing on what we're doing. and trying to get to another championship game. But these guys really, really slugged it out against each other. Seeing this many close categories and seeing poor pitching be the difference it's got to be heartbreaking for Jason, for a guy who, again, you talked about it, was leading the league in ERA for most of the season, or was right there at the top. Put together a very good pitching staff.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's tough. I'm sure, he wishes that it didn't have to end as abruptly, especially on a hard-fought, close matchup. I mean, me personally, I'd rather get blown out than, lose closely. That's me personally. Other people would love to see, would hate to get blown out. That's, For Jason, though, I spoke to him afterwards. He was really happy with the season.
Oh, I'm sure.
He thought it was cool to finally be that close, going for it, playing that far late into the season, that he made his first playoff after being with us for so long, one of the founding fathers, basically.
Yep.
The fact that he was in a first-round matchup that came down to his pickup of Kenta Maeda, giving him the relief appearance, winning that category, flipping a category from James McCloskey, creating a tie where Jason had the tiebreaker, exciting enough for him to move on. He's going nuts back in Colorado, and good for him, man, because it's exciting to be in the Final Four. And I mean, the four of us will say it. I don't know what the rest of them would say, but I truly did feel like these were the four best managers this year. And it was just appropriate that these were the four last guys, and, this was another chess match. This was a great battle between two guys that had two similar strategies, but in different directions, different types of teams that they had created, and it was exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I do want to point out, and you said it, that the four of us are arguably the four best managers in the league this year. The one thing I want to point out is that it's also interesting that, you, me, and Jason made the most and largest trades in the league. Obviously Frank had the most for one manager, but when we talk about the early trade between Jason and Andy, that really set the tone for that team. Getting Anthony Rendon and Jose Quintana and Trey Turner. Those three guys in that trade really set the tone for his team. Anthony Rendon's an MVP candidate. You don't see that going the other way to Andy's team. Between the Adalberto Mondesi injury, Corey Seager's injury, he got Patrick Corbin and Rafi Devers. That's a nice pair of players this year, but it just wasn't enough. When he turns Trey Turner into Raisel Iglesias with you, and he turns Marco Gonzalez into Hector Neris with Frank, and he does so many small little things on the trading side of things. Whether it's the Neris trade, the Iglesias trade, or even the McMahon for Odorizzi trade. This is all
Polanco. He flips Iglesias for Polanco, and that moves him along late in the season.
Yeah, these are all things that built this incredibly strong team that brought him all the way to the Final Four. I think it's indicative of what he might be able to do in the future. He's been with us for so long and hadn't made the playoffs. As soon as you break through that glass ceiling, you could end up becoming a juggernaut. And this is a guy I'm concerned about next year just going on a massive run. Seeing the few mistakes he made. Look, I was the one who, 6-8 weeks ago said that he was done. So I certainly hope that this is a case of he saw what small little mistakes he's made along the way that he'll improve upon. It's him. it's James McCloskey, and it's Bobby. Those three guys I would be afraid of seeing next year because they're already seeing, what's the word I'm looking for? They're seeing fruits of their labor. They're seeing, okay, this is the improvement I've made. This is the result. And these are the shortcomings that I've had that cost me this year. If I improve upon that and continue what I've done the last 2 years, especially Bobby, who barely missed the playoffs last year and makes it this year, I will say this, Bobby or Jason are future champions of this league. One of the two of them will win a championship in the next 3 years. Just seeing the way these guys are.
I think what's funny is that you just said something that's really insane when I think about it, because it was just yesterday that I was talking to Jason. I was saying, you broke through. Now you're a team that teams will fear when they play you. And now all of a sudden the next day, you're saying the exact thing, that now because we broke through, you see the improvement.
Yeah.
You see that now he knows how to handle his team day to day. Not that he didn't. He was always a hardworking player. He was always, it's just a different feel now. And that's just what it is. And like you said, Bobby, he just gets a better feel for it. These guys, James McCloskey got better this year.
Absolutely.
All these guys that are just chipping away and becoming more of a staple team in our league, so that, the guys that are always there, like Sherman's and Ari's and Uncle Barry's, that they have to work a little harder because the competition is getting even stiffer every year.
And it's no surprise that those three names that you mentioned were guys toward the bottom of the standings, while guys like James McCloskey, Bobby, Chris Levy, and Jimmy Dunlap, and Jason here, those five guys were more toward the top than some of our really experienced managers.
Right.
It just goes to the depth of this league, and winning a championship is so difficult in this league. So
it really is, man. That's why, as I'm talking to you now, I keep thinking about how the fact that I really want it. I want to end this thing right now. I really want the whole thing. 2006 is a long time ago, but it's so hard to get to this point. And 2012 just being in here is a long time. So I'm really, really happy with this result. I don't know the next time that I'll be playing in week 25, but this isn't about me. This is about Jason in a very, very strong season, coming alive here, improving just like you said, and now being a mainstay, explosive team that you're going to have to worry about every year.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's hear about his team stats this year, Benji.
We want to do that before we go through the key players.
Yeah. Let's put a bow on Jason's season. We'll do key players after that.
Okay. All right. So you want to start with? Okay. Let's start with the pitching, because we know that was basically
impressive,
the best part of this game, right? All right. So 15-9 in innings pitched, 15-5 with 4 ties and wins, 13-10 in losses, 2-3 in complete games, 18-5 in saves, 8-11 with home runs given up, 8-14 in walks given up, 16-8 in strikeouts, 16-8 in ERA, 16-8 in WHIP, and 6-13 with 5 ties and relief appearances.
It's interesting that he went 18-5 in saves and 6-13 in relief appearances. That's almost a trade-off. The rest of it is incredibly impressive. That pitching staff was damn good. Above 500 and quite a bit so in just about every category.
Yeah, 16-8 in K's, ERA, and WHIP is 2-1.
Yeah.
To win, that's a series. You're winning every series 2-1. In innings pitched, 15-9. I guess that's the trade-off with 6-13 in relief appearances. That he was basically filling up those spots with starters versus relievers.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, for the regular season, he finished third in innings pitched behind myself and Jimmy Dunlap.
Mhm.
So but he still only pitched to a 4.13 ERA, which is competitive in this league. It's middle of the pack. You know, his WHIP was 1.25, which was right behind me at 1.23. You
And where
know,
were you guys? Middle of the pack?
yeah, but the top end of the middle, if that makes sense. You know, I finished 7th. He finished 8th. You know, if you run middle of the pack from 7th to like 12th or 13th.
Yeah. No, I'm really impressed just that the fact that he is throwing all these innings, and like obviously you're going to be under 500 probably in the home runs given up at 8 and 11, the walks given up at 8 and 14, but the wins 15 and 5, 13 and 10 in losses is still like that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
You know, that's still like you're going over 500 when you're still trying to do your thing and keeping your strategy with starting starters.
Yeah, he's not doing the trade-off of innings, wins, and strikeouts for losses, homers, and walks as drastically as I am. You know?
Right. And at the end of the day, those other two that then become in play, ERA and WHIP, where maybe you were like just over 500, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you were
I was 14 and 10 in ERA. It was
17.
2 worse games, and then I was 1 better in WHIP than him.
17 and 7, right? But he was just consistently, I mean, over 2 to 1, over 500. So
yeah,
it's a little better.
What about his hitting?
Right. So his hitting is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 and 13 in runs, 15 and 8 in doubles, 14 and 5 in triples with 5 ties, 9 and 13 in home runs, 14 and 8 in RBIs, 16 and 3 in stolen bases with 5 ties, 8 and 15 in walks, 6 and 18 in strikeouts, 5 and 17 in errors with 2 ties, 13 and 11 in batting average, and 14 and 10 in on-base percentage.
So this was a team that was very fast, obviously, with a lot of stolen bases and triples, a lot of doubles, and hit for a high average and on-base percentage. But it was a terrible defensive team. It was bad with the strikeout. You know.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that he went 8 for 15 in walks and 14 and 10 in on-base percentage.
Very interesting.
Right? Like,
that's just, I mean, indicative of how much he hit. I mean, even though, you know, he did hit a lot, like the batting average is, 2 over 500 there, and he did have a lot of guys that hit the crap out of the ball, like Rendon. So I guess that's part of it, but maybe just against certain opponents. And then he played against me, he didn't win walks, either of those matchups.
Yeah.
So there's 2 right there, But, no, I think that it was just like kind of a middle of the pack, not bad, not good. Like, I would sign up for some of these offensive numbers.
Sure. He finished 3rd in the league in runs scored, was top in doubles, was top in triples, was 2nd in stolen bases. I'm sorry, he was 3rd in stolen bases, was 5th in batting average, and toward the middle of the pack in on-base percentage. So it's more like he played to the matchups when it came to on-base percentage specifically. He did finish dead last in errors, however.
Errors, yeah. No, it's the defense. I think Merrifield was a very great player for him. Mm-hmm. I do know that it's very possible that on more than 4 or 5 weeks he may have cost him that stat.
Sure.
Either to tie it or lose it.
Yeah, and that's a case of the Royals, like, they love this kid, and he's so versatile that they're playing him out of position to get him into the lineup, much like the Mets do with Jeff McNeil. You've got to get this kid's bat in the lineup because he's that talented. You're just going to play him wherever you can, because you'll sacrifice the errors on a team that isn't going anywhere right now. Let's get another young kid up to play second base, and we can throw Witt in the outfield. when it comes to Jason's draft, he was third overall and took Max Scherzer. I don't know. Look, the strategy worked. At the end of the day, he made the Final Four. I don't know if I personally would ever be able to have, a top 3 pick and not take an offensive player, though.
Yeah, I would have done it. Like, I was going to take him if he didn't, to be honest.
Really?
We've talked about it on the show. Yeah, I've said that before. I was going to take Max Scherzer. I took Jose Ramirez.
Right. He followed it up with Andrew Benintendi, who might be one of the most disappointing players of the entire year. Coming off a season where the guy, he only hit 16 homers last year, but he hit 290, scored 100 runs, drove in almost 90 RBIs, stole 20 bases. This year, just really took a step back. Is barely hitting 270, 13 homers, 68 RBIs, only 10 steals, 70 runs. I think that's also the case with the Boston Red Sox. Like, you look at a championship team like that, and then they take a step back this year. Benintendi is also that type of guy. Follows it up with Whit Merrifield and Adalberto Mondesi, basically locking down steals and triples there. And then goes with his number 2 of Patrick Corbin, so kind of marries himself to the success of the Nationals, especially when you add in the fact that he traded for Rendon and Trey Turner early in the season. So by the time April is half over, he's got the 4 top guys in Washington on his team on either side of the ball. He then goes and gets Corey Seager. Kirby Yates in the 7th round is reliever of the year, arguably. That guy is fantastic. Rafael Devers in the 8th. Wilson Contreras in the 9th, probably the best catcher in baseball this year. Just getting him that late in the draft is surprising. I don't think he's going to be a player that goes after pick 100 next year, in that lineup. Yu Darvish in the 10th round was risky, and for the first, 2 months, he was really bad, and recently has really turned it on. He's finally got his ERA under 4, has over 200 strikeouts this year. Just a really surprising turnaround for Darvish this year. Just going to look really quickly at his splits, which will break it down month to month. In April, May, and June, he had a 4.50, a 5.01, and a 4.91 ERA in each month. Since then, July was a 2.93, August was a 3.45, and September is a 2.39. It's a tale of 2 halves for him. Victor Robles was his 11th round pick, just adding to that speed that he was really cultivating. Austin Meadows was a fantastic pick. There was like a month that guy just went absolutely nuts. Tyler Glasnow was a great pick as well, although I don't believe that he was on Jason's team for much of the season, both between injury and I think Jason dropped him early on, although I can't confirm that. Nick Senzel, another guy that he was looking toward the top of a lineup that can steal bases and do well for the Reds. Sir Anthony Dominguez in the 15th round. Early on the Philly bullpen was kind of questionable. Dominguez was the closer late last year, but they went out and signed David Robertson. Neither one of them end up closing, and he ends up trading for Neris, who is the closer. Yusmeiro Petit in Oakland was in the 16th round. That guy's just basically an innings eater in the middle innings. Marwin Gonzalez in the 17th, really good utility player. Just I don't think he's having the kind of season that anybody would have expected. Decent 265 average, 15 homers, 55 RBIs. I just think when you signed Marwin Gonzalez, when the Twins signed Marwin Gonzalez, they were more expecting that 2016 season where he had that ridiculous year and helped Houston get to the World Series and ultimately win it. 23 homers, 90 RBIs, and a 303 average. I think, honestly, this is much more who Marwin Gonzalez is, though. 250, 260 hitter, and in the teens in home runs. Carl Edwards Jr., the setup man for and at the time was the closer for Chicago. He's no longer on that team, actually. He's in San Diego. Ryan Yarbrough was a real utility night for Tampa Bay last year. Domingo Santana, he drafts before that ridiculous series in Japan that makes that pick all just that much sweeter. Gregory Polanco is not very good, and I think Pittsburgh's slowly starting to figure that out. He's injury prone. He hasn't played since June. His shoulder is a wreck at this point. Randall Grichuk, solid power guy at the end of the draft. He finishes it out with Marco Gonzalez, Forrest Whitley, and Ryan Healy as his final three. Whitley being the high-end prospect for Houston that apparently hasn't panned out the way they thought. Gonzalez had a good season, and Ryan Healy, I don't even know if he's playing. He's only played 47 games this year. He hasn't played since May, so... Oh, he's got spinal stenosis. That's why. There you go. So,
Yikes.
Overall, the draft is really good. I'm going to give him a ton of credit on
good.
This. It's really good. Every pick I'm going, yeah, this guy was really good. This guy was really good, And,
even the guy that he ends up trading and getting something for, it's like, yeah, that guy was good too.
Yeah.
Devers,
Yeah, trading off Devers for Rendon, trading off, the only thing I think maybe if he looks back and goes, if I could retool a trade, maybe if he finds a way to get Andrew Benintendi into a trade somewhere and send him off.
Maybe. He definitely had value very early, but if he's supposed to be part of the plan for his outfield, then, he's not going to do that.
Yeah. I definitely think that Boston has some things coming down the pipe that are going to be very interesting to see how they do it. Between paying Mookie Betts and paying him and Jackie Bradley and Rafi Devers, all of these guys are going to command money, and somebody's going to have to go. And coming off of a season like this, Benintendi is the type of kid that they're going to start looking at and going, maybe we can trade him. Maybe we can get something. Maybe we can let him walk. There's plenty of outfielders in this league that can hit 270 with 13 homers and 70 RBIs. We talked about it off air. I don't think it actually hit air, but 55 guys in the major leagues this year hit 30 homers or more. And I think it was something like 115 have hit 20 or more. Benintendi's not one of them. And he got drafted in the second round this year because everyone expected him to take this giant step forward. And he's going to come at a big discount next year. So if next year's the year he really breaks out, somebody's going to reap the benefits of it. But man, if there's one thing to point at and say that's the one spot that Jason missed, it's that pick. Because if we take a look at the second round, he takes Benintendi at 14th in the second round. Outfielders who went after that, well, he picked Whit Merrifield with his next pick. After that, you got Rhys Hoskins, Juan Soto, Starling Marte, Cody Bellinger, George Springer, Tommy Pham. These are all guys who went a round or more later than Benintendi did. And
Tim Benintendi was 2 for 16 in this matchup against Mike. So,
and we've talked about him in the past being the guy who really let it down.
Look, even if Benintendi is just good this week and he's terrible all season, but if he's good this week and he gets Jason the championship, it's all worth it. But no, he had another bad week.
Yeah. Other than Benintendi, Jason had arguably one of the best drafts in the league.
Very arguably. Oh, absolutely.
He drafted well, he traded well, he played his ass off this season, and if this is what Jason is going to be going forward, I am frightened of what he's going to do for the next 3-5 years.
Yeah.
Let's go to key players this week, Benji. And for Mike, who won the week, it's going to be Yordan Alvarez. Yordan Alvarez is just where does this kid go next year in the draft is a good question, right? This kid
he gets the Rookie of the Year award probably, right?
In the AL? Yeah, he about has to, right?
Right? Him, Eloy, Jimenez, Oscar Mercado, maybe.
I mean,
a lot of good ones.
Alvarez has been everything they wanted and more. You know, this season alone, 326, 27 homers, 77 RBIs, and I don't feel like he's even played 100 games yet. Like, no, he's played half a season. He has played 82 games. 27
Incredible.
homers, 77 RBIs. Like, what is this? This kid is going to fly up draft boards next year. This week, 474 average, 500 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. I'll say this much, and just to wrap on Yordan Alvarez, if Mike wins the championship, I will point to that pickup as a league winner. You know, there's a ton of reasons that he will win this championship if he does, but I don't think he's anywhere close to this without Yordan Alvarez. You know, his other left fielder is Chris Davis. You sub Chris Davis in there, this is not the same team. It's not even close.
Who the heck would have thought that going into the season?
Right? James McCann also gave Mike
40 home run.
Yeah, 40 home run seasons back to back. What, 2-3 years in a row?
Back to back.
Yeah. You know, 48, 43, and 42 home runs, 100 RBIs every year, 247 like 4 years straight. Like, you just knew what you were getting with Chris Davis when he bought in on him. And he didn't get it. And instead, he gets Yordan Alvarez, who does better than that. You know, just amazing. Amazing.
Is this the MVP of this week?
Definitely for Mike's team, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's not anybody who was even close. You know, he led the team in home runs. He led the team in runs scored. He led the team in average and on base percentage by a substantial margin. You know, this is absolutely the MVP of Mike's team this week. James McCann chipped in quite well. 316 average, 350 on base, 2 runs, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. And finally, Cesar Hernandez, 231 average, 231 on base, 2 runs, a homer, 4 RBIs, 3 strikeouts, and 2 errors. You know, Mike only won average on base percentage, homers, and RBIs. So those are the things I'm highlighting here. You know, that's not to say that somebody like Didi Gregorius, who had 2 RBIs, you know, a lot of these guys did not hit. But the guys who did hit extremely well, enough to get his average and on-base percentage up to 248 and 311. You know, Didi Gregorius hit 150. Jock Peterson hit 125. Chris Davis hit 100. Paul DeYoung hit 111. You know, we talked about how bad it was for about half the week for both of these guys. And, you know, here it is. But when it comes right down to it, if I'm honest, I think Yordan Alvarez wins this matchup for him on the offensive side. Pitching wise, now this is where it is for Mike. He has absolutely, without a doubt, the hottest pitcher in baseball, and that's Jack Flaherty. 8 innings, a solo homer, a walk, and 8 strikeouts against Chicago. It's a 1.13 ERA and an 0.50 WHIP. This is a guy I would be absolutely jumping on next season. He has been ridiculous in the second half this year. He's had a quality start all but one of his last 12 starts. And that one non-quality start is a 5-inning win over Cincinnati back in mid-August. Chase Anderson was a pickup he made and gave him a quality start, 6 innings, a win, a walk, 4 strikeouts, and an 0.67 WHIP, nothing earned. And John Means, who Baltimore ace? Question mark?
Yeah.
12
no question mark.
12 and 2/3 innings, a win, a loss, a homer, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, a 4.26 ERA, a 1.26 WHIP. The starts came against Detroit and Seattle, I believe. Yeah, Seattle on Sunday. The Seattle start was much better. 7 innings, a win, 4 strikeouts. The one against Detroit was not very good. You know,
but the one against Seattle was timely.
Yeah, very, very timely. You know, ERA was still up in the air, if I remember correctly, and he needed a good start out of him. For Jason,
you need him to go deep in the game. You need a good, amount of innings. He needs every freaking one of them.
Yeah, and he got 7 out of them that day. That's again the 2/3 of an inning to win that category was huge.
Huge.
For Jason this week, Kevin Biggio was about his only offensive player that really stands out. 407 average and on base, 7 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 2 steals, 9 strikeouts. This kid's good. Kid's really good. He hit for the cycle this week, led the team in runs, led the team in RBIs, led the team in steals, led the team in average and on base by a rather large margin, unless we count Kyle Tucker, who only gave him like 3 at-bats or so. Jorge Polanco did well as well, 231 average, 344 on base, 8 runs, 4 doubles, an RBI, 5 walks, 6 strikeouts, but 2 errors. And finally, Garrett Hampson, who he picked up midweek, 286 average, 375 on base, 2 runs, a homer, an RBI, a steal, a walk, and a strikeout. Just a solid performance from about half a week from Hampson, because otherwise, again, this team didn't hit either. A 214 average, a 216 average, a 274 on base. That's not going to get it done. You look at Andrew Benintendi's 125, Harold Castro's 167, Ryan McMahon's 071, Ben Zobrist a 167, Anthony Rendon, the guy that we've been harping on all season, was the MVP in the NL, arguably, 167 average. That's not going to get it done in a semifinal like this. His pitching, Yu Darvish gave him 15 1/3, 25 strikeouts. That's ridiculous. 4.11 ERA and 0.91 WHIP. 2 homers and a walk and 2 losses. Jason did not win a game this week, and it's hard to find a starter that really stands out. But Darvish's 25 strikeouts, Scherzer's 11 strikeouts over 6 2/3. When you put those two together, that's 36 strikeouts. And that is more than half of what Mike pitched to. So I want to give credit where that's due for those two guys. Finally, Carlos Martinez gave him 3 saves, 2 2/3, 4 relief appearances. Did not pitch incredibly well. It's a 10.13 ERA and a 1.88 WHIP. But the 3 saves and the 4 relief appearances certainly play. Benji, we have anything going forward on this matchup?
Well, it's a celebration matchup.
Yeah.
It's 2 guys that are happy to be there, more so for Jason.
Yes.
I think for Mike, thinking, 2012 I did this, 2013 I get back to the finals, I don't pull it off. 2014 I come back again, I get knocked out in the first round by Uncle Barry.
Mm-hmm.
2015 I come back to the playoffs, I lose in the first round to Alex Lorenzo. 2016, I get to this semifinal. I go against Ari Nisman, and I lose. 2017, I miss. 2018, I come back. I lose a semifinal to Donato Santangelo. And then here I am again in a semifinal. I better break through this time, and he did.
Yep.
2013 is a long time, and there's quite a few semifinal matchups where you come up short. You're saying, God, something's got to give. I know that I belong here because I've been in this opportunity so many times. It was going to happen eventually, man. This was the guy that I had, picked to be the champion this year. This was my prediction, and I picked him as manager of the year so many times. And, Harp, if he wasn't number 1, he was probably second place or third, when we do manager of the week.
Right.
So, I'd say I'm the underdog going in, man, but what's cool about this, it's a 2012 rematch. The last time I was in 2012. That's his last championship, 2012. It was a tie. Well, no tiebreaker probably this time. Funny enough, when we faced each other during the year, we tied. So
wow.
I don't even necessarily know what the next thing is. I think it's ERA. We have to delve into it, you and myself, Joe. maybe off air on what's the next thing. I know Mike deserves to know, just in case it is an ERA.
Right.
But that's just all these crazy things. The fact that the last time I was in 2012, who did I beat in the semifinal?
Mm-hmm. It was Mike Haber, was it not?
No, you.
Oh, shit, that's right. You beat me. Shit.
Right. So in 2012, I beat you to get to the final.
To face Mike Haber.
2019, I beat you to get to the final.
Yep.
And it's just like kind of the same path, and then here I am to play the same exact guy in the final. The last time it was a tie break. This time, if it's a tie break, there's something else that goes on.
Yeah.
Just all these kind of crazy things that all fold into this end of the story between him and myself, and it's going to be an incredible war. It already is. Some insane things already happening, but you know, I'm happy to be here. He's happy to be here. We got to say good luck to each other and say that, hey, we get to enjoy this. Let's try to enjoy being here before we have to go back to work and deal with the stress. But I'll say, man, the stress of this, it's not the same as last week. There was a different kind of critical urgency to last week. I know, hey, man, I might be 50 years old when I'm back in the finals here in the Bigs.
Right.
I realize that. I understand that 13 years, 2006 when I won it, is a long damn time. And we've been through a lot in our lives, you know, on the fantasy field and off, that, you know, we could say, holy shit, 2006, that's a long time ago to win a championship. So now that I'm here, it's time to do it. Same goes for Mike Haber. It's been 6 years. It's time to do it. You're here. You got to get it done now that you're here. But God bless that we're in here, and God bless that it was a fantastic season for everybody. And I hope everyone enjoys the finals and has enjoyed the ride so far.
And Benji, I just did the research. I know what the tiebreaker is. You want to hear it?
Go. Come out with it.
Okay. And this is going to be interesting because this is something we can delve into if it ends up happening. Obviously, as we talked about, the first tiebreaker is best regular season record versus the opponent, which you guys tied. So what happens if that's the case? What's next? It reverts back to whoever had the most stat category wins in the regular season. Benjamin, that's you by 6 games. Getting wins in the regular season and not getting as many ties definitely helped you. Because Mike finished with 6 fewer wins and 4 fewer losses, but 10 more ties. If he could get those ties to be wins, you're talking about a different story there.
Or some of my wins end up being ties.
Exactly. You know, we can look at the matchup that you and Mike had next week in the regular season and see where, you know,
sure,
things you know, were.
Sounds good.
You know, but at the end of the day, Mike needs to win. Mike needs to beat you. You don't need to beat Mike to win this championship. You have champion's advantage.
How appropriate. So funny that, you know, now it's like kind of the tables are turned and I actually have the tiebreaker. Yep. I didn't expect it, but okay. I'll take it, man, and I'll take a great matchup. I'd rather get killed if I'm going to lose, but I'll take a great matchup just so everyone that's watching gets a good show. Absolutely.
And as for a show, that's going to do it for today. We're going to come back tomorrow and do the consolation bracket. We're going to do the best and worst and, you know, manager of the week and really start to get a picture of. We're also going to do some history of semifinal matchups, correct, Ben?
Yeah, we're going to do some history there and just a discussion, an open, healthy discussion on the state of the league right now and where we can improve, and a little bit more of some of these discussions we were having last week on decisions that we should make going forward and what's best for the league.
Absolutely. I can't wait to dive into that stuff. That's going to be very important for guys next season. You know, innings minimums, roster moves, locking teams. You know, I think though, that you hit it on the head earlier, and I don't want to get too much into this before we shut down for the day, but I think you hit it on the head that the guys who were there in the playoffs, the four of us that were left, I think we all used all 13 moves, but I think if we're honest with ourselves, we probably could have done it with fewer. I know I could.
Probably.
I don't know. Yeah. I can't speak for the other two.
I could have also.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, I think Mike Haber was saying the opposite. He was like, I don't know, But Jason was. He was saying, like, I think I could have adjusted because of some of the decisions he made.
Right.
So, healthy discussion, and we'll dive more into it tomorrow.
Yep. And guys, we'll see you then. As always, Benji, thank you for hosting with me. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. It's been real, and it's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. Unless I lose in the semifinals to Ben. Son of a bitch. We'll see you tomorrow.